Hey, you're not live. Why
Now
am
I'm
I the
live.
only
There I'm live.
why am I the only one who's live?
Well, because what I did on my computer is I had like 15 audio and video outputs, and I kept having problems. So I went through and disabled every single one. And now I have one. I have one video output, one audio output and one audio input, and that's it. And yet it still didn't find it. So it's like, how can you not find it? There's only one choice. It's not like there's 10 choices. You get one choice, and that's it. So, whoops. I'm messing things up on my computer over here because I wasn't quite ready. Um, hey everyone. So yes, here we are, our new home, Wednesdays. Wednesdays is our new home. And I actually like Wednesdays better.
I do too. It's not in the middle of one of
Yeah.
Linda's meetings.
Yeah. And more importantly, I'm also going to have more people join if I give them. Derek, who's listening now, was supposed to join, but Derek had his Leshy adventure yesterday, which was
It was
pretty funny.
It was just too exciting with Leshy, so he's on a Leshy hangover or
He's
something.
Leshied out. He's Leshied out. He doesn't know what to do with himself. So anyhow, let's see. Oh, the YouTube redid their entire interface. Wow. Oh, I know they redid it. Actually looks really nice now. So let's see, lots going on. So we released 3 books this week, Mark. Did you know that?
Yeah, I know. I noticed when yesterday I got to finish Zero RPG Superstar Monsters because there was so much to do with releasing those 3 books.
Oh my god. But well, let me rephrase it. We released them today. Yes. And there's actually more. This is what we released in today. We released the Indigo Isles 5e adventure. It's something like 100 release. The first release. It's 168 pages.
Yeah.
It's adventures 1 through 4.
By which you mean chapters 1 through 4, which are chapters. Adventure 1.
Yeah, Adventure 1, chapters 1 through 4, levels 1 through 4. And I'm actually surprised we got it out. I thought it was going to come out Friday, so it actually came out 2 days early. It has all the monsters in it for all 3 adventures. I did that on purpose for layout. And the other thing is that it's the Pathfinder adventure converted to 5e by David N. Ross, who's the same person who's doing Abomination Bolts for Paizo. We had our in-house team review it, and they said he did a great job. We also added a few things here and there, adjusted it, had to take out some monsters, which actually took out some artwork, which made layout interesting, but somehow, I don't know if you know this, Mark, the layout, the number of pages is exactly the same for the adventure.
Whereas the player's guide is actually longer because backgrounds take more space in 5e.
So that's out now. And if you want to run the best adventure in the history of adventures, Indigo Isles is out there. Battlezoo.com. No, seriously, it's really good. And the Pathfinder version, adventures 1 and 2 are done. The third one, I could have kept going, but I wanted to keep them level. So now the first adventure is done. The second one really won't take very long. It's really, I'd say maybe 2-3 weeks to input and layout. The player's guide is done. That's completely done. Free guide for 5e and Pathfinder. They're both done.
Yeah, the Pathfinder one's been done for a while. It's 31, 32 pages. The 5e one is 38 pages because backgrounds are longer.
Much longer. And that's out. And the character guide, the Indigo guide...
The PF2 character guide is done, right?
Done.
By done, we mean you can still look at it. You can send us errata if you find them. And we'll get it fixed for the final printing, but this is considered the final version.
Well, there's no printing, so this is it.
Oh, right. It's character guide. That's the one that's not getting printed, of course. This is it. So this is considered the final version other than if you send us errata for it.
Yes, if you find things, let us know.
Yeah.
Because last night I found a huge spell. I actually found a whole bunch of spelling mistakes in the Indigo Isles Adventure Pathfinder version, so I was like, oh my god, I gotta keep... It's like it never stops, so you just keep eroding it. And Battlezoo Bestiary for 5e for Foundry for version 10 came out, which is version 1.1. So let's say that really again. Good. Let's say that again. Battlezoo Bestiary for 5e for Foundry version 10, which is our version 1.1, is out now.
Right.
There you go.
Great. And David Green in chat is wondering how work is going on the monsters for Strange and Unusual. So I am nearly a third of the way done with going through the monsters. I have gone through every gold monster, most of the silver monsters, and I should be done with the silver monsters probably this week unless a lot of Indigo Isles stuff pops out.
It's not.
Okay, then I'll easily be done the silver ones this week. I've done a few of the copper ones just like early on that we were looking at the beginning. And then if you're a platinum winner and you're one of the 3 who did not get me your extra monsters, you know who you are. I'm going to go poke you for those. I'm thinking of doing the platinum and grand ones after the silvers potentially. Yes. And then I will go into the coppers, which are admittedly I am saving the hardest work for last, because some of the ones that got copper, some of them are going to be easy to do because they got copper because they were very polished, but like needed just a little bit of punching up on certain things that are easy to fix. But some of them got copper because they were amazing ideas that were executed not so well, and those are going to take a long time. So I'm going to still try to get through those, and then after that, write the brand new content for it. And as Steven said when somebody asked before, we are aiming for Q1 of next year on that book, and I think we can make that. We can definitely make our Year of Monsters schedule of 1 per month in 2023.
Oh yeah, and
that's gonna be that's. I don't want to ever say in the RPG industry that something's gonna be easy, because there's still 5e conversion, there's still Foundry, but that is underway enough that my end, the longest parts of what had to be done, and Steven's end of getting the art to come in are both well ahead of the game to make sure that those make it. So we're in good shape for those. And if you're wondering what about Eldamon, well, that's going to be the longest. So to make sure that we get the other things out, so you get some things in your hand, Eldamon is going to come probably after those. Well,
it's done. A catch-22 because the Battlezoo Bestiary, it's like you kind of just want to get it done.
Yeah, and I just like to have one of the things completely done so that you guys have it and are like, whoa, one of the things was completely done.
Yeah, and then the Year of Monsters, well, as an experiment, I'm also doing the character guide for 5e right now, which is actually a good experiment because that I know what it's like to put in ancestries for Pathfinder, but our races for 5e are unlike anything you've ever seen, because races for 5e are usually a page, maybe 2 pages long. Let me put it this way. I did the Chichori last night. It was 12 pages long.
Yep. I did our dungeon ancestry when we turned it to a race in 5e, it was not as long.
Yeah.
But since we did that, I came up with a strategy that I asked our 5e team to implement, and Bill from our 5e team, William Fisher, did, and he did a great job, and it worked. And my strategy for trying to make sure that the 5e version had just as much richness as the PF2 version in terms of options and information, so that it wasn't shorter, worked out. So I think that 12 pages is about the same length for both, right? I think that's about how long it was.
Well, I did the Gamayan, and the Gamayan, they're either 12 or even 14 pages, believe it or not. They're long.
I believe it.
They're longer than Pathfinder, which I think everyone is going to be stunned when they see this, because like, how on earth did you make them longer than Pathfinder? Because 5e races are so short.
Well, it's all down to one little idea I had, which is to put in backgrounds that are based on the race.
Right. Well, that 5e
backgrounds are very long, and that is entirely the reason that it is.
That is the secret. That is that length. There's a lot of backgrounds, so it's not just a race. It's a race with backgrounds and feats. Right.
But we had feats for dungeon. It still wasn't as long as the PF2 one, but by adding backgrounds, it is, because you get a lot of lore and flavor, and
Yeah.
also rulesy stuff by putting in backgrounds.
Yeah.
So that's what we
I'm
did.
very curious to see if anyone will copy this, because I think it is. I think once the word gets out, they're going to see how superior it is, just because the races in 5e feel like flavors, or not even flavors. They feel like skins. Like you'd literally just skinning your character with, oh, he's an orc or he's an half elf. But then you saw dragons, and dragons is like, wow, this thing is a dragon. Like there is so much unique about this. Like there's no mistake that this is a dragon race. And when then they see strange and unusual and year of monsters, they'll be like, oh my god, this stuff is like really detailed when it comes to these ancestries and these races, as we call them. And yeah, that one actually should go super fast, because I don't even know if I'm going to release 2 versions, because the ancestries are races. I keep calling it ancestries. Races are taking a little while. I'm half done. I finished half of them in one day. The balance is pretty easy to convert. The pirate archetype, I guess, gets converted to background. I'm not sure. I guess that's a background now. And
I think it would be a list of feats like the other architypes that we did in
background and feats,
in Battles of
or
Beskari.
feats. And then Old Woody has to be converted to 5e. And then that one's done. And that one should go pretty quick. And so we're flying. Actually, I did the count. I think I've done something like 13 books, including the free ones this year. Just me and you. That's it.
It's a lot. It's even more output than I was doing at Paizo, but just also there's a lot of overhead from working at a larger company and all the different coordination. So by virtue of us being smaller, I'm able to go through more output when I'm working with you.
Yeah, but I don't know if I'm ever doing these. This adventure.
Oh yeah, the adventure is rough and it is very long, and I can confidently say it's that rough. It is very difficult.
It's this is up there with the hardest things I've ever done. I'm sitting here constantly, just like every day, because it didn't take, like, the Battles of Beskari took a few months. Like all these other books, the Dragon book really didn't take that long to lay out. I mean, it took you a while to write, but this, it's like it took forever to write. It took forever to get the art. It's taking forever to, like, everything is long. There's no short part of creating this adventure.
Like, the interesting thing about this is that, like, Eldamon, for example, is harder than the adventure in terms of how hard the content is, and like the monster part system is harder, but this is longer and complex and has interlocking pieces that cause tricky issues and things with it in a way that those two are not. And also, I'm good at dealing with things that are hard, but if things are long, then they're just long. People can see a bunch of art that's just like around us right now. My favorite mimic art is beneath me, it looks like, or it was in the past. I don't know if they've switched around.
So no, I added this new. So
yeah, do you guys see the mimic that's mimicking like an oven and is like shoveling in some food? It's
there's some
like
new ones. There's the slime.
There's also a slime that's a witch. You can tell the slime has the witch class based on the hat.
There's an Oni new. I put the slime. And I put the mimic. Actually, the mimic looks like a witch too.
Yeah, the mimic kind of does look like a witch. Maybe the mimic is a witch.
Well, it's just that it's that hat. It's a very iconic hat.
There's like there's a nymph in there. There's an Oni. There's a demon. There's 2 doppelgangers. One of which I bet some people think is a succubus because they're using a doppelganger feat nobody knows about yet. So yeah, there's a lot of cool art surrounding us today. All right, why don't we talk about this topic? Railroad adventures in D&D are good because, well, I do not entirely agree with the summary that is in the show, even though I do. I am mostly on the side of the show summary, so I want to see how much you and I agree with each other.
Well, they're good. End of stream. Good night, everyone.
Well, I don't quite agree with that. So I do think that they're overly maligned, by which I mean, if you go anywhere, like online or even in some GM advice books that you'll find, it'll be like, never railroad. Railroading is one of the top 5 sins of game mastering that indicates that you are terrible because you're railroading. That is just an indication of a GM who thinks of themselves as like the author of a story and thinks of their characters being agentless and unable to influence anything, and you're just going to ignore anything they do, not give them any ability to influence what's going on, and just push them forward. You're railroading them. And the term is sometimes used literally to mean a GM who is bad and is messing things up for their players. And I think that is an overreaction, because the idea of a plot that is linear, which is a less negative way of talking about it in general than railroading, which, I guess we have to define it here, but it generally means you've set up a railroad because you've got this rail, and that's the only way that the engine's going to drive. It might go a little faster or a little slower based on, if you turn up the speed or shovel in more coal or whatever you're doing with the train, but it's never going to go off the track. And so I feel that railroads are sometimes the right choice, and it depends on both the situation and your group. For some groups, what it says in this description, if you look at it below about they may be the best way to run an adventure, that's true. For some groups really don't do well with sandbox. Especially this is true if you have a pretty casual group that also is pretty directionless, and if you're like, hey, what do you want to do? And I don't know, something.
Actually, let's back up real quick, because a few things. One, if you have questions, feel free to type in chat. If you super chat or you join us, and every little bit counts and every little bit helps, we will answer your question immediately. Even if you do a $2 super chat, doesn't matter. Tips, joining, anything like that is greatly appreciated. But Alex did have a question. He goes, what do you mean by railroading? Sure. So maybe you should define railroad adventures versus sandbox.
I was sort of defining it there, but I didn't define what it was against. And you're right, that makes sense. So in general, the idea of a railroad is that it is a linear adventure. The term railroading as a verb is also sometimes used even more pejoratively to mean like forcing the players to do what you want. But it's
also called on tracks. Yes. That's the other term you'll hear a lot. It's like an adventure is on rails or on tracks.
Yes. It means that there's one path forward and it's going to move forward. If you think about it in terms of like a video game, right? Like a typical Final Fantasy is pretty railroaded, and arguably Final Fantasy 13 is extremely railroaded because you literally can't even go back through certain rooms.
Most video games, especially single player, they are railroads. They are on rails. Like you have to go from point A to B to C to D if you want to move the story along. You have to. You have no choice. Whereas
sandbox which is sometimes called open world in video games, they're just like there's a lot of stuff out here,
or Grand Theft Auto, those type of things.
Well, interestingly, with World of Warcraft is sometimes in an MMO space where it is sometimes called the theme park, which is then kind of compared to sandbox MMOs that don't have like that sort of theme parky aspect where you go to this place and there's some things that are there. So that gets into its whole can of worms. But sandbox or open world for a single player game is, something like you said, like Grand Theft Auto has some sandboxy natures. Also, Elder Scrolls, where you just kind of wander around and there's a bunch of stuff around and you do the things.
Actually, I'll go back. I'll do my definition. So a railroad,
fair enough.
A railroad is, by the way, a linear adventure. Yes. In that you go from point A to B to C. Some good examples of video games. Probably the best one I can think of is God of War. That is very linear. That is a very, that's a very tight, very specific story. The Yakuza games are a little bit in between. A lot of the Japanese RPGs, or basically most RPGs, are linear because, they have the combination. There's like, if you're going to do a chart, you have pure linear. And I would say like God of War 2018, That's linear. Like that is incredibly linear. Then you have the in-betweens, which is you have a linear story, but then you can go around and do other things. And that is and there's different ranges of that. And that's like the Yakuza games. That's a lot of Japanese role-playing games. Like they have a lot of they call them side quests, but you can go off and explore the world and do things. And I'd even say MMOs like World of Warcraft and stuff are kind of like that because they do have main stories, but you can go off and do a whole bunch of things. And that's sort of the combo. And then you have true open world. And true open world are games like Crusader Kings or Minecraft is a perfect example of an open world. Like
Minecraft's a real sandbox.
You just do whatever you want. Like there is or The Sims. Like you just make the story up in your head. There is no story. So those are the ranges. And
there's extreme variation.
Yes.
And I do want to point out that the definition we used of railroading is different than the way that some people use the definition. Like London Matthews just said, where the verb railroading is often used not to mean that the adventure is the railroad, but sometimes specifically for the act of. Some people use railroading, just like in a bunch of our episodes where I'm like, hey, hold on. Is it bad to be a power gamer? That depends on your definition of power gamers. Some people define it meaning that it has to be bad. Some people define the term railroading to literally not mean running a railroad or linear adventure, but to literally mean like playing power games with the power dynamic of their players in a bad way as the GM. Like some people might say that railroading is like if the GM's like, okay, so what are you all going to do? And someone says, okay, I'd like to check around in the windows before we go into the door. And the GM says, okay, you all go through the front door. And the player's like, no, I wanted to go through look at the windows. No, you went through the front door. Yeah. Some people would say that that's railroading.
Well, that's railroading players. Railroading, but that's railroading players. That's slightly
exactly.
Different.
So the term has nuance, and it sometimes is literally used by some people to define as literal bad behavior where you force someone to do something that they said that they didn't want to do.
Right.
And now, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about in this episode when we're
talking about the adventure itself.
That's why the name of the episode is Railroad Adventures in D&D, not railroading your players.
No, that's another topic. And I would say railroading your players in D&D is bad. That could be the next topic. Is that,
there you go.
That's a subtle difference, but the reason I brought this topic up is multiple reasons. A, we're working like nonstop in this Jewel of the Indigo Isles adventure, and so I'm like knee deep in this.
I'm sometimes stopping and going to other things.
Yes, this is all I'm working on. And this adventure I'd say it's the Japanese role-playing type adventure, is that we give you very cool cities and an entire world, or at least part of a world, to explore. So if you want to go off into Rumplank and explore it, you can. We give you a huge gazetteer. But the main adventure is very purposely on rails. And the main reason it's on rails is because I based it off of video games and, more importantly, movies. Is that I wanted very specific set pieces and adventure set pieces and environments and conditions to occur. And the only way you can do that is by having it, quote, on rails. So I call it a roller coaster. I hate the term railroading. I say everyone likes roller coasters. I think terminology is everything. I just
call it a linear adventure.
Or a linear adventure, right. And
because railroading is used negatively so often.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
We needed to do it. It's hard to explain without spoiling it, but it goes through very specific beats, very specific. It's a very tight story. That's the other thing, is because the story is so tight that things that you encounter in the beginning of the adventure will reoccur middle and end. You can't do that easily with an open world adventure, like a Kingmaker. And so ours was very much like that. The other thing is that I have this new rule that I'm mentioning because I like it is that I'm no longer buying video games. I gave up.
Wait, hold on. You mentioned that rule in a previous episode. Have you followed it since that episode?
I'm going to tell you what happened. It's actually, I've been doing this for a couple months.
Okay.
So this is what actually ended up happening. There's a few caveats. So for those of you who don't know me, before I did this, I did Gaming Steve, which was one of the very first podcasts ever on the internet. It's actually, I think, 20 years old now or something. And that was very popular for a while. Then I kind of stopped it. Kind of wish I kept going. But anyhow, my background is video games. And as much as I'm into this, I'm way more into video games than even role playing. I have an endless amount. I have more video games than anyone can play in 10 lifetimes. And I decided to stop buying video games. Except for a few exceptions. I think I'm going to give myself maybe like one video game a season, like 4 a year or something that I can buy. So I actually did buy Persona 5, but then I realized, I actually have it because I have Xbox Game Pass, which is a cheat because they give you free games. So it's kind of a cheat. It's a subscription service. So you get games without having to buy them, but the subscription service is cheap. And so it's like a Netflix. But the games do disappear, so you don't get them forever. That's one thing. And then I actually returned it. I never did that with Steam before. I bought it and then returned it, and they gave me my money back because I was like, nope, I broke my rule. And then I started playing an Xbox Game Pass, so it didn't matter.
Okay, Persona 5 is out on Steam now.
Yeah, it is. It came out, well, I forgot it was on Steam. I bought it. It was on Steam, then I forgot it was on Xbox. So I was like, oh. And then I felt bad about buying it. And the joke is I've already finished it twice. And I'm like, why do I need to play it again? But
okay, well then that is one thing. Whereas
it's so good, that game.
Whereas Linda and I don't have a PS whichever one Persona 5 is on. So
oh my god, really?
Yeah,
it's so like the greatest
the only reason I've ever thought, it would have been cool to have that system is Persona 5. There's no other game that's on that system that I would wanted to play.
It works on the Switch. Now it looks good on the Switch.
Yeah. Now I can play Persona 5 at some point. Except I have my own different rule, which is that I only buy games that are on a pretty significantly high sale, either on a Humble Bundle or like a Steam summer sale, and off by a certain amount that I feel like is off by enough because of the fact that I've gotten too used to being at Paizo. But now that I'm with Roll for Combat, though, maybe I should buy some of these games you're recommending so that I can have played the same games that that you have recommended.
Well, anyhow, in 1 week I managed to finish Yakuza Like a Dragon, and I finished God of War 2018, which is actually my favorite, probably my favorite game, maybe my favorite game of all time. It is so good. I actually replayed it because here's the God of War Ragnarok is coming out in 2 weeks. And I was thinking about it is that both of these games are linear and have very, like in Yakuza games, for those aren't familiar, especially Like a Dragon, which is excellent, by the way, they do this thing where they will introduce 20 characters that all have nothing to do with one another. And that Japanese anime and Japanese role-playing games do this in general. But by the end of the game, every single character is interconnected with each one, and there's one massive, conjoined story. And it's so good and so interesting. And then you have God of War, which is so linear that they actually did this amazing thing. I don't know if you noticed, Mark. The entire game is done in a single shot. There's no. I
did not know that. That's really awesome.
Ever, never. It's over the shoulder, and it's like a movie, and everything's done in game. So sometimes the camera will move around, swing around. It is. I can't get into it. I can do 20 episodes in God of War. Just how fantastic the writing, the story, the camera, the art, everything, every aspect of it. And then I saw a video explaining why they did in God of War, and they said they had to do such a tight linear game to tell the story they wanted to tell. And then I thought about role playing, and I thought about adventures, and I'm like, and I'm one of those people when I played Kingmaker, because everyone's like Kingmaker, it's the greatest, blah blah blah, and I have the book. I have the book right here. We played it, and we did not enjoy it.
Our group loved it with Linda as the GM.
We did
It
not.
was
We
so
did not
good.
enjoy it. Because there wasn't a larger overarching story. Like, we want a big, epic, gigantic story with everything connecting with everything. I don't like these little vignettes. I don't like these itty bitty stories. I don't like. It felt like Kingmaker was all side quests, and to me, I just felt like it just felt hard to get them into the world and into the story. I'm sure the new version, by the way, I've read parts
The
of
new
it.
version has more interconnectivity, and to be
Yes.
fair, the version that
It's
Linda ran
superior.
was not exactly what was written in the
Yeah,
books,
and that's
she
that
added
helped.
interconnectivity and more to it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true, but
By the way,
what she ran was very
this is the craziest map I've ever seen. Look at that map. Look how many doors are in that map. What the hell?
I remember that one.
It looks
that
like Dwarf Fortress.
That's
that map.
from part 5, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's famous for how many of those rooms are empty.
It's ridiculous. Can you imagine programming that in a VTT? Look at that map. It's insane.
So many of them are empty.
I know.
But it makes sense because you're going into like a major building for it.
Let's not put in too many familiar,
spoilers for Kingmaker in the middle of the thing. But
did I say that to
here's
Linda?
the thing, though.
She did the same
thing. The version that
adventure.
Linda ran, even though it had more interconnectivity, was still very sandboxy. You can run a sandboxy adventure that feels like it has interconnectivity and continuity, but here's the thing that I think is true. You can't write a pre-written sandbox adventure that has enough interconnectivity and continuity. It somewhat depends on the GM to remember it and put it in. So like the written book can't have all of what you need to make a sandbox adventure really sing. As a GM who ran a lot of sandbox adventures that I wrote myself, but also as someone who understands why some groups like linear adventures, and I myself somewhat like linear adventures. It depends on your group dynamics and your social contract. Someone in chat had been mentioning earlier that the social contract is sometimes the players don't go too far off the rails of a linear adventure. So like for me, I would always run the sandboxy adventures, but ones that had a lot of continuity and interconnectivity when I was running my own campaigns. But when I'm playing video games, I actually tend to enjoy linear adventures more than some sandboxy experiences. So I'm going to name a sandbox game that is universally beloved by everyone, and everyone's going to be like, Mark, why was this game not for you? And I can tell how good it is. But Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a game that, as someone who enjoyed like every other Zelda other than Breath of the Wild, is not for me. And the reason it's not for me is because I am an incredible Zelda completionist. I will not leave until I have everything that I could have gotten. And so I spent like over 30 hours on that first like flying continent that you're on, that's like the tutorial area, and I knew I still hadn't found everything yet in that area. And so I was like, but I have accomplished so little during this time, and I felt so bored walking from places to one to another that are far enough away that it takes me a significant amount of time to get there, and I don't find anything interesting in between. And so like if I had just been like, oh yeah, I'm going to wander around, I'm going to do the main things, I'll get what I find, and I'll go to the next place, I'm sure that the game is fantastic for most people. But for me, it wasn't right. I've played other sandboxy games, like even like Immortals Phoenix Rising, I can tell is not as good as Breath of the Wild. But it worked for me because it had a Farsight ability that I could activate, where if I just very slowly moved the switch around, it would like ping on points of interest until the point where I was able to get every single little upgrade that existed in that game. And I did it while spending like, you know, like probably 100 and something high hours for the whole game. But with Breath of the Wild, I spent 30 on the starting island that had almost nothing on it.
I'll tell you one thing. You got to learn to get rid of that, because I'm a completionist too.
Yep.
I don't do it anymore. I broke the habit a while ago, because like, yeah, because like Yakuza, like I don't know if you play the Yakuza games. So Yakuza games they're very good, but the thing about them is that they're famous is that, you know, you can finish the game in say 40-50 hours, but if you complete it, it's 100. And it's just not, you know, like I did all the side quests, but there's all these like mini games. Like I just didn't bother, you know, I gave up. I actually finished it. I'm like, you know what, I'm done, and I'm fine with it. I'm fine that I didn't 100% it.
I'm okay with not 100%ing if a game has a really annoying mini game that is
it's not
just
even
like
annoying. I
not
just want to
fun.
move on to something else, you know.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's like it had a driving game and it was fine, but I was like, does it do anything? And I'm like, nah, so I didn't even bother. I tried it once or twice. Oh yeah, mahjong. Yeah, there's mahjong in Yakuza games, and you can spend a lot of time just in the mahjong parlor. Yeah, that's the thing with open world games, and also I'm into the point that I can tell what's padding and what's not, and you know, some of that is just a put on the box, you know, like literally just put it on the back of the box. So I don't bother. Or they have what they often will do is they'll have an engine, because the Yakuza games are all built like on the same engine up to the number 8. Is that they will, or actually even more because there's 0. They just keep adding like, oh, we have a game that's like a driving game. So then you just add it. They reskin the cars and redo the tracks, and voila, you got a mini game in there. So, you know, that's like another trick they do. But I actually talk about Zelda. All right. This is how old I am. Are you ready?
Okay.
Me and my friend were at KB Toys in Roosevelt Field Mall in 1987 trying to figure out what new game we're going to play and buy. And there were 2 games. I believe it was Kid Icarus and The Legend of Zelda. Now, back in those days, we had no idea what any of the games were because it was the middle of the Dark Ages. There was no internet or anything. It was magazines that were often very far behind. And this was the day it came out. So I saw The Legend of Zelda, and it had that little gold little cutout for the gold cartridge, and I thought, oh, now Kid Icarus also actually looked pretty cool, but I was like, oh, you know what, I'll get that, The Legend of Zelda, and I bought it. And not only did it have the gold, I was like, ooh, gold cartridge is so cool, and then it had a save feature, and I was like, oh my god, a battery save? I don't have to write down numbers and letters? Oh my god. I finished that game. This is the original Legend of Zelda, which is, you guys don't know how easy you have it now. Like, you play that game, play that with no hints, no guides, nothing. Finished that in 5 days, man. 5 days. I ripped through that game. I went through, I bombed every single wall in that game. Literally, I'm like going one at a time to find every hidden area, every hidden cave, everything. I crushed that game. Yeah, and that was, and then I became a legend. And then it was the Legend of Steve, because I went into school and everyone was like, because then the buzz started to come out. And I was like, oh, dude, I finished that game weeks ago. They're like, what? And then I was like the online help guide for my entire high school, because I was the only one who knew how to finish it.
A lot of people in your high school actually played video games in 1987.
Not a lot. My friends. Let me put it in my core group. Okay. They're the same ones that was in the... You want to hear this? I wish I got to find the yearbook. I was in the Dragons and Dungeons Club, because the people who did the layout of the yearbook did it wrong. They did the Dragons and Dungeons Club. That it literally says that.
I thought you were going to say because of the fact that TSR might have sued you if you said you were the Dungeons and Dragons
the 80s.
Club.
No one cares. They didn't know what it was. They like just it's a picture. It says that instead of the Dungeons and Dragons and the Dragons and Dungeons Club. So yeah, we all played it. And also back then, like Zelda, these games were expensive, you know, so you could only buy one game every few months, you know, or you would rent them from Blockbuster, you know, things like that. But no one returned that game. You know, people would keep it so they could finish it because it took a while. But I don't remember where. Oh, anyhow, so back to your Zelda thing. So Breath of the Wild, I've never finished it, and it actually has to do with the same fact that you said. Not that I'm a completionist, Mark, but that game, that stupid system with the weapons degrading. I know why they did it. Man, I should get a mod for that game so the weapons don't degrade and like play it on my Steam Deck, because I hate that system.
I don't like that. Like I
hate it.
There's a part of me that psychologically really doesn't like the weapons degrading. However, I would have been able to deal with it because you get the Master Sword until it breaks and then it's gone. Like,
So you get something and you never use it. That's the problem with that system.
I thought that there was like eventually a really good sword that doesn't break.
I don't know.
Like
I keep trying to play it again. However, I will say the one thing about that game, A, the physics engine's amazing, and B, the weather system is incredible in that game, because you'll just be walking and then I'll be in a mountain and then all of a sudden it'll start raining and then you start sliding down the mountain and then there's lightning going off. And I remember I've been in fights where you're in the fight in the middle of a field and I'm fighting some guy and literally lightning strikes the bad guy and kills them. And I'm like, okay, that was cool. Like that stuff is pretty amazing. That game. But anyhow, this isn't a video game podcast. Anyhow,
oh sure,
Knights of Last Call. By the way, Derek,
we talked about it because you even said before we started that we'd probably get into video games as an example of it, and I think that makes sense because this is an example of how for some play groups, right? If you had a group of players who treat their tabletop RPGs, they feel about it in the same way that I did when I was playing Breath of the Wild, then you might want to run a linear adventure for them. I actually like playing sandboxy adventures in tabletop RPGs because for different reasons. But what were you going to say about...
I'm going to say this. I bet you that if I had Derek Melinda, I'm calling you out by name, buddy, or Linda, or you, Mark, running a sandbox adventure, I think it would actually be very good. And I think you have the means and the ability to do a sandbox adventure and give it justice. Seth Lipton also ran one for us for a D&D group from level 1 to 20. Again, very good. He had a very interesting story and he did a great job. He also was very good at giving players cool things and constantly rewarding us throughout the game. So that is something that I did enjoy very much. Now, I will caveat that by saying there are also a lot of linear adventures that I think are too linear and don't give enough agency to the players. And that is a problem because then they feel like they're on rails. And I keep bringing this up, Jewel the Indigo Isle, we did something about that. We gave everyone backgrounds, and throughout the campaign, your background will come into play and will grow your character and give you benefits and bonuses. So even if you're playing, quote, by the rules, you will feel like things are occurring naturally around you based on the choices you made. Now, again, that's done in every video game known to mankind.
Sure.
You know?
It's not, it's nothing innovative, but it's the kind of thing that I feel like a good sandbox GM will do while sandboxing, which is why, as someone who's done a lot of sandbox games, which is why I basically pitched that to Steven when I came on board and we're starting looking at things. Steven was like, yes. He immediately knew that was a good thing to add in. And so
we just rebalanced it because one thing I
added in those extra things for the backgrounds.
So there's the same number for everyone. Because I hate that. I hate when you see Baldur's Gate's famous for this. If you play Baldur's Gate 2, there's like different backgrounds, and certain backgrounds you only have like 13 things happen to you throughout the adventure, but another one like 40 things will happen. So I'll do the one that's 40 because I just want to see more. So I made sure they're all even, so no one sees more or less.
Close. They're within one. They're within one of each other. They're like all, I think it was 4 or 5, except there's one that has more mentions than that, but that's because it's the same thing gets mentioned in 3 different places in the text.
Yeah, but
so
you know
it
what I'm getting at.
is mentioned, but it's really the balance with each other. And so all the backgrounds are going to do something. Now, are they spread evenly? No, they're not. Which actually makes it even more interesting because there's like one of them that is got most of their stuff in the second adventure when a lot of other people don't. And so that'll be your time to shine.
Well, there's one that happens a lot in the first adventure.
Yeah,
too.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And there's some that just are sprinkled throughout. So that gives people different tempos, paces, and spotlight naturally in a way that like a good sandbox GM will also do when they're running their campaign. But we wanted to build that into a linear adventure by adding some of those elements to it, and that's why we did it.
Yeah. So my point of why this is good is that my group, we like, and this is the age of worms now. It was Age of Worms. Another fantastic, by the way, linear adventure, amazing. The Agents of Edgewatch, that is such a good and interesting story. The meta story of that one is so good. The whole way it's written and designed and where it's going and the places it's going. Like, my players like it. Like, they, after every session, are like, wow, they're excited to see what will happen next. Like, they're really good and interested in finding out what happens next. And that is one of the advantages of a linear campaign. There's a few things you can do. One, you have a very tight story where you can have interconnectivity. Two, you can tell the type of story you want, and you can have things like, a good example everyone knows is Harry Potter. You know, things that happen in the first book reoccur and appear in later books, and that was planted well ahead of time, and people were like, whoa. I remember reading that. I mean, everyone's read Harry Potter now, but there's, you know, specific characters that are in the book and then suddenly change into other characters in later books, and you're like, whoa. And they set that up way ahead of time. Like, that was cool. Like, I love when that happens.
You like Chekhov's guns?
Yes, I do. I love Chekhov's gun. There's a gun in that room. It better go off. It better go off. I'm telling you. Or better yet, it should do something. It doesn't even better yet, it doesn't go off. It ends up not going off, and the other gun goes, you know, something like that. But you know what I mean? Like, it should
becomes important later.
It becomes important later, right? I do like that.
Everyone likes a good Chekhov's gun.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that, oh, and Derek's like, Age of Worms and Shackled City are fairly linear adventure paths. Yeah. Well, Age of Worms is very linear. So Shackled City is not linear, sort of. And that also was an experiment. But do you know that those are not the first adventure paths of all time? In fact, I would say the first adventure path, which I was just thinking about, was...
I mean, it depends on how you define it.
Well, in the sense that published adventures all link to each other with a single story and outcome. I'd say Dragonlance was the first adventure path. Way back when.
There were also series that were even earlier than that, but they had pretty varying stories.
Those were not like the S series and like the T series. Like those were not. Those are semi-linear. I wouldn't even call them linear. Those were just. I think that was a marketing tool than anything else. I don't think they really really were linear in any sense. But remember, yeah, Dragonlance. That I remember when that came out, and I bought it, and when I was a kid, I mean, I was very young, even I was young back then, and that came out, and the whole shtick was, not only are the 12 adventures, but here's the PCs you play. Like, they're like, here's your NPCs. They don't start off at level 1. I think it was like level 3 to 7 or something, and you went through one story and through the world, and you would play in order, and it was a revelation. Unfortunately, I didn't think the adventures were that great, at least in the beginning parts. I felt they were okay. I'd be curious if I read them now. That was one of my issues with it. But I would say that was one of the very... Oh, what are you saying? But technically G1, 2, 3, and 2. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Like, yeah. Like, those modules were sort of linear to each other.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You could say is the first, but
they
aren't.
Yeah,
like,
you'd say
they don't have like necessarily one coherent.
Right, they're not coherent. But Dragonlance was actually like, you will play this as one adventure with these characters over. Like, it was as linear as you can get. Like, they went out of their way to make sure you went through that in that specific order to get a very specific experience. And it was one of the best-selling things they've ever had. You know, I think it was their best-selling line ever from TSR. So I think linear adventures are very good, and they allow you to tell these specific stories. But it comes down to your players. And as I said, my players like the linear story. They like one long, linear, interconnected story. It comes down to the GM. For me, personally, I find it just easier to tell a linear story than to do the sandboxing. I don't think sandboxing is bad. It's just for me. I find linear is just my cup of tea. And even having the side quests, at least with my players, I know when they're like doing the side quests, like I will give them, here's the main quest and here's 2 side quests. And you know what they say? Screw the side quests, let's go in the main. Like they don't even want to bother. They just want to get going. They want to go on the adventure. They want to go on the main adventure. They don't want to go on the side quest. To them, it's a waste of time. Maybe they're older. Maybe they've seen it all and done it all.
It depends on the group.
Yeah.
So I've seen it with some younger players too. Like it's all about figuring out what your group wants to do.
Yeah.
And you have to figure out what the GM wants to do. You have to figure out what the players want to do. See if that matches. And then you want to be very explicit, right? Like once you figured out that your players want a linear adventure, you say, hey, it sounds like you want a linear adventure. And then they agree. And you say, okay,
which one?
There's a few ground rules for that, right?
Right.
If we're going to do a linear adventure and you want the benefits of that, then we're going to agree not to get too far off the rails of this linear adventure, because that's what we've all agreed to do.
Yep.
And I will plan it far ahead because we're doing it with a lot of Chekhov's guns and other things like that. But there may be sometimes when I have to say, hey, we need to stay with this linear adventure. Whereas with a sandbox, if everyone says, okay, we want a sandbox, then you say, okay, we've agreed to do a sandbox. Now that means you have to be pretty self-motivated and be willing to make decisions about what to do, even if like the plot isn't leading you along by the hand. So make sure that you've agreed to do that. Then we can do a sample. Like you just want people to know what you've agreed to do and what that means from them in the social contracts. And if you do that, then railroad adventures can be great. They can be, like we said in the description, the best way to run an adventure for your group. And it all depends on who you're playing with. And even like the same person, their opinions can change. Like you said, as someone gets older, or maybe they have less time for gaming and they have started a family or a new job that is even more work than usual, and they can play less often and they don't want to do the side quest. They don't have as much time. They just want to get to the main story when they're actually gaming. Like it can change as people change, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with people's preferences.
Before
changing.
Derek goes, let's just say that if we get more likes, we only have 13. If we get 25 likes, I'm going to force Derek to wear his Leshy outfit the next time he's on the show.
Oh, well, now he's never going to come back on.
He'll never come back on. That Leshy, that thing was funny. He played Popcorn. He was like a psychotic, murderous Popcorn who wanted to kill all the other Leshies. So wait, if they got enough money, Mark, they were going to do an adventure based on Poppets. But I volunteered, then maybe you can run it and write it. But by writing it, you could do what you did with writing ours. It's just write 3 lines and figure out the rest in your head.
Yeah, it takes a little longer than you might think. But yes, I can write 3 lines. I could do that if they're all going to play Poppets. But Derek will have to be a Kermit the Frog puppet.
Oh, you hear that, Derek? You're going to have to be Kermit the Frog. I want to be on that one, too.
Christmas Poppet Adventure. I see it can be about
Christmas Poppet Adventure is what it was going to be. That's right.
Maybe you'll see if I can get Linda. She's an expert in Muppet Christmas Carol.
That's right.
She's seen Muppet Christmas Carol more times than any normal human being.
Then maybe you can be on it. I could be on it.
I'm not
Derek.
actually going to give any indication that I could get Linda to help me with it, because I just don't know her availability.
I don't know either.
I will tell you that there's no one that I've ever heard of who is more knowledgeable about that movie, because I think she watches it.
I've never seen it even once. I've never seen it once, ever.
Okay.
Oh, I couldn't even tell you. But yeah, that was their next one. But then they had no one to write it, and I was like,
but they didn't. And there you go.
And I was like, I bet you we could figure it out. Did they get enough money
for it in their Leshy show to do it, or did they not?
I think they did. I think they came close.
There you go.
I was like, I would get Ron, but he's not allowed. I mean, Ron invented the Leshy.
Ron's not allowed anymore, even though he created the Poppet ancestry. But
because I get Ron on.
WotC doesn't let people do a lot of things. They have a very interesting situation. And Juho, yes, someone did say Poppet Christmas Carol. That is what I said.
Yeah, it would be so insane.
You know what though, Steven?
What?
Like You realize RPG Superstar, one of the winners this year, is basically like one of the ghosts from Christmas Carol. It's the creature. So this is coming together, right? Like
Yeah.
literally, and like it even had an art reference that kind of looked like some of those depictions that people do for those. Do you remember the one? It's the one that comes in and like tries to tell you about what you've been doing wrong. And
no, I didn't get to that art order yet.
I haven't done the stats on that one yet either, but when I judged, I saw it when I was judging.
I took a little break from I was getting art in pretty fast and furious, and then I took a break because
I think we have all the pieces we need with the Battle Zoo Bestiary to do a Poppet Christmas Carol.
Poppet Christmas Carol. Oh, but no, Poppet Christmas Adventure. That's what it is.
Yes.
Or Christmas Poppet Adventure, one of those two.
Yes. Either way.
Either one. And yes, we would do the voices. And then the overlay that Derek made was amazing, because as they got more money, it got more and more anime, to the point that by the end, I actually preferred the full anime layout to his regular layout, to say the least. It was good. I was like, wow, this is so busy and horrible. I love it. It was great. It's like, they should all look like this, probably get more viewers. I think we should do that, maybe get some
just
anime
make
in
an anime layout.
Yeah, it was very nice. But back to
it could be our April Fool's layout to go with our, because we had all the like the light novel and anime jokes that were in the dungeon that were in the April Fool's dungeon release. So
I don't know how we'll ever top that. That's the problem.
I have an idea for the next April Fool's.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, good, because I don't.
I'll tell you later. I
don't know. I'm like, that one was so hard to top. I don't know how we'll ever top it.
I think that people might enjoy this one. It's more universally usable, although you would have to get a lot of buy-in from your entire group to do it, because it's not just like one ancestry that one person is playing. I'll tell you later.
All right. Well, so I guess the moral of the story is, not that we're completely done, but the linear adventures, they're good if your party is interested in them. And more importantly is that you need to also I'll tell you where, okay, let's back up. I'll tell you why they get a bad rap is they feel like they rob player agency, and they feel like, it feels like, hey, I have to go and do this thing. I have to go on rails. My character, like, the worst part is that you have a character who can't die, or an NPC. And that is a big problem when you're playing. And I mean, that's a whole other issue. It's like, well, what happens if you have murder hobo PCs that want to start killing everyone, And then you're like, well, this guy has to live to the end of the adventure, It's like, how do you deal with that, Or he has to at least live for the rest of the chapter, and they go kill him. What happens? And I think that's where they get very upset. And I hate to say it, but actually that sort of happened in one of my games recently, is that, and actually we got to fix it, is that like it had more to do not with player agency, but this is a whole other topic. The VTT, the Foundry, they wanted to do things I didn't have set up. And I couldn't figure out a quick way. It was also the end of the night, and they wanted to do some weird stuff. And I'm like, ugh. So either we have to do full theater of the mind, or I had to try to figure out how to get it set up in the Foundry VTT. Sorry, in Roll20 VTT, and I'm just like, so I kind of railroaded them a little, and they got really angry, and it actually ended badly, and I got to like go back and retro fix that. Yeah. And that was me.
Tricky.
Yeah, that's on me. So that's the problem with railroading, but sometimes things like technology will mess you up, like Foundry or Roll20, because if you don't have things prepped and ready to go, you might feel as a GM just, these guys, I have A and B set up, but they want to do D. I don't have D set up. You're doing C, whether you want to or not.
That can happen even if you're trying to, like technology, it's very hard to do something that's completely sandboxy in a VTT, because it just takes a while to set certain things up. And if you're doing all the bells and whistles anyway in the VTT.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it just comes down to bad luck. Like here's an example. I was playing in an adventure path, and there's a big player's guide for this adventure path that had a gazetteer of the entire city. So I picked like a noble family that was in there that were like very minor nobility and like generally kind of annoying, and my character was like didn't get along with the main people from his house, and picked one of those people to like be his dad who he's estranged from, and he was like a warlock. This was in D&D. And so anyway, I there was this group of people who hated the current harbor master and like may have been somewhat, some people spread rumors that they were associated with piracy. And so I claimed that my character's dad was trying to set him up with like the daughter of them who was in the player's guide. And so she turned out to be one of the people we were supposed to fight in the first adventure. And I did not know that. So after we had like some information about a birthright, I went to talk to her, and she was in contact with the final, like one of the main villains who was like a recurring villain, and he wanted the thing that my character knew how to get and was supposed to give to the patron. So I brought that back to the group, and they were like, wow, you got in contact with all of these people. I said, I think that I can get them to like come to the place that we can open, and they cannot open again, and then we can seal them in with us and just defeat these two people. I did not know that they were like, one of them was like a final campaign villain. And then the GM stopped running that game because he was like, yeah, there's no reason that they wouldn't come with you to this. This is exactly what they want to get. Mm-hmm. And when you do, and you seal them in with the rest of the PCs, you're going to defeat them, including this major guy. And I don't know, I can't run this adventure path. And so like, no, I wasn't even trying to go off the rails. I just literally was trying to follow the player's guide. And the GM was just like, this is hilarious. This is great. This would be very interesting. I don't know what to do. And they technically were like, I'll think about it and maybe think of something else, but then they never did. And so it just died.
What about open world? How do you think it would, how is it best if, I mean, I am not the person to talk about with open world games because I don't run
for
them.
A tabletop RPG.
Yeah, for a tabletop RPG. Like I just don't run them, and I tried once and it failed horribly. So you give me advice. How would be, how to do that?
So the main advice is need to make sure your group want to do one, and they really want to. They don't just think that they do because they've heard railroading is bad. Right. And that that means that you want to make sure in your session 0 or even your session -1, as you pointed out in our -1 episode, that you talk to them about, okay, we're going to do an open world. Understand that means that I want to talk to you about your character, make sure they have a goal or some kind of backstory, some kind of elements that we can throw into this open world story. Because if all of you just come in and are just like, you know, we're all playing Bob the Fighter and we just want to fight something and we don't really know what it is, and that's everyone's character, then really, even if it's open world, you're going to be dangling hooks and sort of leading them on something that's semi railroaded, even if there's no railroad, but it's more that there's just a carrot on a pole in front of their head and they're just following that. So then what you do is you tie in those elements from the character's backstory that they give you into the plot, and that will get characters really invested because it's their thing. So the same things that we added to Jeweled Indigo Isles, you make that like a big aspect of what you're doing in the open world game. Even if and if the player gives you license to add some of it because they're like, I want to do this, but I don't know what to come up with, then you can just pitch them ideas to add to their character. One player wanted to be amnesiac and just have me come up with his backstory, and I came up with the backstory that he was secretly the villain and who was a psychic and erased his own memory in order to fulfill some conditions for his magical spell that he was going to do. And so when that was revealed, the psychic powers returned, and I allowed the part of his personality that the player was playing to use his psychic powers one time before he got consumed, and he used it to like split off a second body that was him, that was separate from the villain. But he was just so happy about the fact that his character turned out to be the villain. He thought it was really cool. So that was the player who was probably as you may guess by asking for to be amnesiac, like the least invested, the hardest to get him to engage as much. But he loved the fact that his character was the villain, and he was like, I'm going to take psychic warrior levels now with my paladin because of the fact that I was originally this evil psychic. So tie it to the characters, tie it to what they want, and tie it to and then that will make it work. Whereas if it's just a sandbox that is completely generic and it's just like, well, you walked into this hex, there were 5 orcs there and they were eating a pie, like that can wind up not being as interesting.
So before we go, anyone have any questions? Because I see no questions.
I saw one more, is the one on the bottom right, one of those fairy folk from Juho. That is a nymph. It is a Hesperid, nymphs of the sunset. So you can see the sunset colors. You can check them out in Bestiary 3 from Paizo. You can see that they often have colorations that are similar to that. It's a Hesperid, and we're going with a big giant mirror because, you know, Hesperides and all the nymphs come from Greek mythology. And so I was thinking Perseus's mirror for fighting against Medusa would be a cool thing for a nymph to be holding. I feel like that's like a thaumaturge with the mirror implement. So because Hesperids also have light power, so why not bend light and make like extra images of yourself? I thought that would be a cool character build, so I asked Stephen to get an art order for it, and that's what we got.
Yeah, that one came out well. And I don't know how the mirror would last in a battle, like getting hit with a battle axe. But
yeah, well,
whatever.
you know, you're not necessarily going to use it as a shield. It's a thaumaturgical implement. So
how much art for Stranger
she's using it to
Unusual?
Produce additional copies of herself.
I don't know how much art is for Strange and Unusual.
How much has come in? I mean, for the
I don't
order,
know.
we've at least written out some amount for these.
Yeah, maybe a third of
That's
it.
pretty good.
Well,
That's about as much as I finished with the text. So
yeah,
as
the
long as
art, I have a lot of good artists, and I can actually go pretty quick on it. It's also, I stop and go with the art orders for that. So that one I'm kind of going back and forth on. Like sometimes I'll get like 10 in at a time, and then I stop, and because I have a lot of artists and they go pretty quick, and if I needed to start cranking it up again and getting like 5-10 in a week, I probably can. And I feel like I probably should get back to it. Well, now the thing is, once you start laying out a book, it's very hard to stop. It's like starting a game of Civilization and then coming back to it a week later. You have no idea what you were doing. It's like I can't stop doing the layout and then go back to it later because I will lose my place. So I have to keep going and
keep laying it out, and nobody explodes.
Yeah. Well, I finished the layouts, and then we published so many books this week that I actually have a bit of a break. So I'll probably go back to doing art orders, and then also the oh man, for better or for worse, the Eldamon the Eldamon survey has to go out, and we had Backer Kit helping us because we were doing so many weird things that
you mean the Kickstarter survey for the second Kickstarter?
They actually did it for us because
wow, that's nice of them.
Yeah, except the problem with doing such a, I gotta simplify these. It's such a complex.
We do have to simplify it.
It's such a.
I honestly think that there's some people who would have joined it that didn't because it was a little complicated.
All right. Well, in the future, we're gonna do it a little more simple. Okay, we're gonna simplify these in the future going forward. Trust me. There's reasons I get kind of because you only get one time to do it, but once you can do more than one at a time, I think this will go faster. Because that's the problem. It's like Kickstarter only lets you do one, and then you can't do another one.
Until you've done 4 Kickstarters or something like that,
and then you can't do more. Right. So it's
then at that point you can do 6 at the same time.
I know it goes from you can only do one at a time to 6. Could you do it a little more
graduated than 1, 1, 1?
Well, it's 1, 1, 1, 1, 6, and I'm like, all right. So that's why I feel like I got to get as much in as possible because if you have to wait, it's like it's kind of a nightmare. But anyhow, that's going to probably go out very soon. It just has to go through like 2 more steps.
Awesome.
But
I'm really glad about that.
Yeah. That one turned out to be a
That's been a whole
pain.
ordeal.
That has been a very long ordeal, and a lot of it is I literally will send something to BackerKit, and they actually have to fix it. They have to do it. They have to implement it because I can't even do it. And we're using all this new beta stuff. Like they're like, oh, yeah, it's weird because we had a meeting with them, with my fulfillment house, and I swear to God, they were taking notes because they were like, wait, and we gave them like 20 things to add to BackerKit to make it easier for us to do our job. And they were like, what? And they were like writing. I'm like, so and they started to implement it, and now we're like a guinea pig on half of this, which is good and bad. But we actually had to have them do like the work I would normally do. Like normally I would enter things, but we literally gave it to them so they can put it in the system because it was that's how new it was. But it slowed things down. The thing is that, and we should put out an update. It's not slowing down you getting anything. Whether you do the survey today or tomorrow or a week or a month from now, it doesn't matter. Like you will get the same. You'll get the content and the materials in the exact same time. So, wow, there is a gardener right outside my window. Let me close my window.
Okay. I don't even hear it that much, but I think
because I have a sports mic. That's why. Because I literally have these mics. First, they're detachable. Look, which makes it easy to get up. The other thing is that they were designed for sporting events,
nice.
So that you could have dogs barking, kids screaming, and all that stuff. And
I do sometimes hear your dogs.
Well, they're barking like crazy right now.
Really hear.
They're barking like crazy. I can't do anything about that. Yeah. But that might be a good time for us to also wrap things up.
That's right. And we made it out before 1, so that works for me.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it.
I have to do it before 1 on Wednesdays due to
that's fine.
Linda's
that's
schedule.
2 hours. That's more than enough.
Plenty of time
that's
for
plenty
a topic.
Of time. Yeah.
So thanks for joining us, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed our take on railroad adventures and whether or not they're right for different groups.
The final take is if your group wants to do it and everyone's clear on it, then do it. And personally, I find as a GM, I like single story linear adventures more. My players like them more. I do fit in little custom tidbits about players and little side stories about each of them, and they give me little like information so I can add it in. A good example, if you listen to the 3 Ring Adventure podcast, that's a perfect example because there's a lot of side stories that we added into the adventure, and the weirdest part is half of them were already in the adventure. And they were like, did you add that to the adventure? I'm like, no, that actually was already there. I just kind of added your character's backstory into that story that existed. And they're like, oh, that's so cool.
That's always a fun thing to do.
And that was fun. So you can have it both ways. You can have your cake and eat it too. You can have a linear adventure and give the players agency and have the characters in the story interact with the linear adventure.
I mean, that's the real secret. You can have a published linear adventure and add more sandbox elements to it.
Yeah.
And you can take a published sandbox adventure and add more connective elements to it that can give you more of a narrative. So that's often the way, like good sandbox GMs add some narrative elements to it that have some linearity. And good linear GMs, like what you were saying for your group there, do add some of the like more personalized or slightly less on rails, slightly more sandboxy elements in. So,
but I would say it comes down to the, as you say, the social contract, because I have 2 actual plays, which you can listen to, rollforcombat.com. You have the Agents of Edgewatch, and they were like, no backgrounds, no side quests. Nothing. They want to go on the main quest. That's it. And I like, even when I try to divert them, they're like, nope. They just want to go right. Even if they're like, I'm like, do you want to go visit like your brothers in town? They're like, nope. I was like, wow, they really don't care. They just want to go on the adventure. So I don't even bother with them. But then the 3 Ring Adventure, 3 Ring Circus, 3 Ring Adventure, doing Extinction Curse, they have lots of side quests, and that's the ones we'll spend 2 hours shopping, and talking about food and naming restaurants and things like that, and they love it. But even but that only can go so far, because even after like an episode of that, they're like, okay, let's get back on track. Like even they have limits. They can do it for a few hours, but that's about it. as opposed to, I guess some people would be like, oh, everyone wants us to go this way. I'm going that way. I'm not even going on the main adventure. I'm going completely off the rails. I'm going to just break it in every way possible. And that's a whole other topic. And also, I don't play with those people ever. And if I did, I would stop, because that's not the way I play. So the social contract is, oh, we want to play the exact opposite of the way you want to play. I was like, well, I guess you're finding a different GM. That would be the end of that. That would be my episode -1, where I'd be like, I'm not a good fit for you guys, because that's not the way I run. And that's fine. That's fine. You just got to make sure you have a good fit. If you have players that want to go off the rails the entire time, then make sure you have a GM who wants to run a game completely off the rails and has no problem with it. I am not that GM. So
there you go.
There you go. And so, Mark, you should buy Persona 5. I know you love JRPGs. That is considered a masterpiece of masterpieces.
Well, sure. I mean, I played other Personas, and
did you play Persona?
I have my eye on Persona 5, but
it's so much better. And because
I've heard that Persona 4 is better than Persona 5, but also just because one thing is better than it, just because Final Fantasy 6 is better than a lot of other Final Fantasies doesn't mean I don't want to play those other ones too.
Persona 4 is okay. I think 5 is superior. I played 3, 4, and 5. The thing about 5 is what made it so good is they came out with Persona 5, which I was already getting like 9.5s and 10s out of 10s. They redid it and came out with the Royal Edition. So they added a whole new semester of school, all new characters, and polished every aspect. They added thousands of things and completely redid it to the point that it is.
They do that for all of them, right? Like 4 got even the possibility to play a female character.
They added
to
in
do
3
extra social links.
Small things. 5 they completely
I mean, a new semester does sound like a lot.
That's a lot. It's huge. It's basically like a DLC, but linear adventures like this don't get DLC. Like JRPGs don't get DLC, or if they do, they get like outfits. They're like, oh yeah, here's new characters and 35 hours of more adventure that tacked on to the end. I'm like, damn, how did you do that without messing up the story? I was like, wow. And then for the PC version and the Wii and everything, the Switch, the Switch version, they even polished it again. And I'm like, all right, you win. It is in the music, everything. And why it'll run on anything is because it was designed for the PlayStation 4 and it has very low requirements, so it'll work on anything. Which is a secret, by the way. That's the secret of the Persona and all these series, is that they come out with these games that work very well on low quality machines. So because they work on that, they'll work on anything. Makes sense. Yeah, and that's why you can get it for the Switch.
Does have Beneath the Mask, which is a great sort of music to play in the background while working.
The music is, it's so there's I'd say of all the games, if I was teaching a video game class to study, the more recent ones, I would have Persona 5, I'd have God of War 2018, I'd have Cyberpunk, believe it or not. There's reasons. Cyberpunk is really
to
interesting.
Learn about the issues that
they fixed it. It's more popular now.
That would still be an interesting one to think about the release and how they fixed it and things like that.
And I won't get into it because I could go into this for a long time. Very long story short is they hired a company to do the bug testing, and the company misrepresented what they can do, and they were woefully understaffed and inadequate. And that is a problem. Like, if you hire someone to do an important job and they fail, and they are liable for this, no less. It's not like, oh yeah, we're this is they can go, they can get sued for billions, not even millions, billions.
So it's literally malpractice.
Yeah, and what do you do about that? And that was a problem. Like, it really messed them up.
How can a quality assurance company even pay billions of dollars if you try to sue them for that? They must not be worth that much.
No. But you can sue them for what you lost in sales. And if they can say that because of you we lost X amount, then you can sue for the difference. And that game could perhaps, but they sold 20 million copies. I mean, and you know what? The new version is superb. And you know what? I played the original. it wasn't even that bad. Like everyone's like, "Oh, so buggy and stuff." I'm like, you know what? I mean, yeah, it was a little buggy. I've played much worse games, trust me. And I actually thought it was in pretty good shape, to be honest. Like,
Fair
yeah.
enough.
Anyhow, but yeah, get if you're gonna choose one, man, God of War. You're gonna choose one, I'd say God of War. I'll be honest. That's my favorite of all. It's just
Favorite of all.
yeah, it's so good. The story is so good. The acting is so good.
Even
And
taking into account the fact that I know that I like Persona games, whereas I'm not sure whether I like God of War games, you would
well,
still say God of War?
I would say,
Or...
believe it or not, I think Linda might enjoy more than you because it has very similar combat elements than Hades, and I know she's good at Hades, and it's
She
a lot of
is.
like that twitch fast like thinking and different styles, and she's very good at that. There's a lot of that in the combat, and I think she'd actually maybe like it more than
She
you.
was surprisingly very good at Hades, but she's not always those are not always her favorite style of
Fair enough.
games.
Fair enough.
But
Persona 5, I'd say then, and in your case, Persona 5 is better. And if you want to really mix things up, I'd say Yakuza Like
get
a
both.
Dragon.
Oh, Yakuza Like a Dragon. What about Yakuza 0? I feel like I
Yakuza
have
0, fantastic. Very.
I feel like I have
I just
Yakuza
finished
0
that one again.
on a humble bundle somewhere,
It's
unless
excellent.
I gave it to a friend because I think it came
that
in
one
at
is
one point.
that one's superb too. The thing about
Okay.
those games, the Yakuza games, well, Yakuza 0 is the intro and it's a very good game, but it has a active battle system where you're like literally fighting in combat. And it's fine. But if you prefer turn-based Yakuza Like a Dragon, the main protagonist thinks he's playing Dragon Quest and refers to Dragon Quest constantly, and then even pretends all of his combats are Dragon Quest combats, and then they are turn-based. And he does everything in terms, it's a running theme throughout it where he pretends he's in a video game in Japan, and I'm like, okay, there's a lot of meta going on here, but damn, it works. And also,
that does sound pretty meta.
it's fun, and the protagonist is so likable and so fun that it's worth it. And the story is one of those classic stories of where are they going with it, and then you're about halfway or maybe 2/3 the way through the game, and then it starts coming all together and you're like, a damn. Like the Japanese role-playing games do that better than anyone. I was like, wow, they managed to, I don't know how they did it. Like you're like, what the hell is going on? And then it really ties together really well.
The God of War that is listed on Steam does not look like it is nearly the first God of War.
Well, 2018. There's one on Steam.
It's the 2022 one on. Oh, or there's one on Steam that was released on Steam 2022. Maybe that's the 2000.
That's it.
2000. It says his war with the gods of Olympus years behind him. He's now fighting the Norse gods.
Yes.
That looks like
that's
got to be like way in the future of the series, though.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. They reset it. Don't worry about it. It's a there's two parts. He now fights Norse gods and he has a son. It starts off with him. The whole game is, some people call it God of Dad because it's him and his son, but it's
the same guy, right?
Yeah. It's Kratos.
Okay, well then that has an issue for me. I'm gonna have to play the one that comes first.
No, you don't,
instead of the one that comes later.
Yeah, you don't. There's so many, and the problem is these stand alone though. This is a brand new story, and there's the first story. It's only two parts, and the first story is this, and then the second story is Kratos is Ragnarok, which comes out in like 2 weeks. You don't have to play the other ones. I'll tell you why. Is that it assumes, and he has no history, and he hid his history, and the first one you'll hate because it's just a beat 'em up. It's actually not a role-playing game, or even it's literally him going to kill his father's Zeus, and he hates his father, and he goes kills him. And that came out 20 years ago. It's very rough. It's very misogynistic. I don't think you would like it at all. And like he tortures people. It's very rough. It's a very 2002 game.
That does sound not good.
Nah, you wouldn't like it. I liked it, but I don't think you would. This is him coming to grips with his old life and hiding it from everybody, and does not want to have anything to do with it. He hates the gods. He hates his own life, and he's trying to turn over a new leaf. And I'm not giving anything away. This is the first 5 minutes. His wife dies, and then he has to go on an adventure with his son to spread her ashes from the highest mountain in the realms. That's it. And it is very heartfelt. Like, you'll see people write about it saying they're crying. Like, you will cry through this game. That's how well. And the main actor, the guy who plays Kratos, is from Stargate. Remember the Egyptian guy? I forgot his name. Forgot the actor's name.
What, the bad guy Egyptians?
No, Kratos. He's the guy who plays.
Do you mean the one in Stargate who was like this?
Stargate SG-1, the TV series.
Stargate SG-1. Are you talking about Teal'c, who was the servitor of the other people? And then, okay, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Teal'c he does the voice. It's the voice. The best voice acting I ever saw was Uncharted. Until this game, this game surpassed Uncharted. Uncharted is the best voice acting.
Well, Steven, I'm definitely still not going to buy a game at the very end of October when I can wait until November when those sales are going to be up.
Yeah, that's true.
I will look at both of those
on
Black Friday.
Do this: join Xbox Game Pass for $9.99 a month, and then you get Yakuza Like a Dragon and Yakuza 0 and Persona 5 for free. And it pays for itself because it's $9.99 a month. And there's like another. They have every Yakuza game. That alone is hundreds of hours right there. That's actually the best deal of all the ones I've ever done, because they get really good games constantly, and they get a good mix of games, and you can go a long way. You can just get Xbox Game Pass and never ever buy any game ever again. Seriously, like it's very good. And it works on like everything. That's the other nice thing.
There you go.
You can even stream gaming if you wanted to. That's a little more. I think that's $15 a month. But then you can even like just stream on your phone, so you can play anywhere. It's good.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody, and we will catch you next week for a new and different topic than before. And definitely check out all 3 of the books that have just been released, or however many of those are for a game system that you are playing.
Yes, well, battlezoo.com. And there's tons of free stuff. I see everyone downloading the free one because I get an email every time.
Get the free player's guide. It's 38 pages for 5e. You can get the 5e one even if you play PF2, because you might want to look at the longer backgrounds. They're based on the same sort of like cultural groups that are in the PF2, but with a 5e background, it could give you ideas, because they have those like tables of bonds and flaws and other things like that you could still use on your character.
Yeah,
in PF2.
You can use both.
Given that it's free, there's no reason why not.
Well, I know. So everyone come and they get the dungeons, free dungeon, and then they get the free ancestry guides. But,
there you go.
Don't forget you can buy stuff there too.
Oh yeah, sure.
And you think this stuff's big? You think this stuff's nice? When do you get stuff that you can pay for? It's even nicer. There's more. It's huge.
All right. We'll see everybody later.